I guess Ed Brubaker, he's a friend of mine. Some of you might know him. He writes a comic book down there. Same thing. He phoned me up and he said, "Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing your own stuff, man?" And the answer's simple. I want to work with the best writer I can find, and I'm no Donald Westlake. So
nobody likes Darwyn's writing.
Yeah, my writing sucks. No, but really, yeah. And you know, actually, I'm coming up against this a lot more lately, and a lot of people asking me, "Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?" And you know, I've always likened myself more to a director, I guess, than a writer. And I think I'm much better at coming into something that's there and then finding the best way to present it. But yeah, bottom line, he's a better writer than I. And I'd rather work with him because he's the best. I mean, sure, Scott, I'd probably name 8 companies right now who would take a crime graphic novel off me sight unseen. It's just, I don't think I'm as good as he is. So between, you know, certainly not as a writer. So you take the two of us and put us together, and we end up with something pretty strong. And I don't think that my original work, as hard as I might have tried, or as good as I might have done, I just don't think it would have stood up to what he did. And so I don't have any, I have a lot of ego, but I don't have any ego in that sense. And it's easy for me to work with me, but there's just so much for me to be proud of, you know, to be able to do this type of book, you know, with a writer like that. And especially now that he's gone, to be able to carry his work forward. And I always hear from people, younger people who come up in the lines now, and I never expected this. Like, I assumed Parker would come and go, and that everybody in the line would still be going, Green Lantern, Green Lantern. But that hasn't happened. You know, people have really turned on to this stuff. And so I get these 23-year-old guys coming up to me, you know, in the line and going, I didn't know this was a line of books. I went out and picked up 5 of them, and they're amazing. And so, in many ways, working with Donald, in this sense, I'm maybe doing more, I think, than I would be just doing something on my own. Because, you know, we're creating our book, but it's also bringing readers to this whole body of work that this great author did. And I don't know.
And bringing some of his readers to comics.
Exactly. It's really working well. You know, I think Scott can tell you better about that part of it, but I don't think we expected this to be a wildly successful thing. It was something we wanted to do, and we thought, okay, we won't lose money on it. But people have really responded to it. It's just gotten so much better than we thought.
And it was sort of a happy coincidence that the University of Chicago Press is reissuing the books. And so, I mean, you know, before they were, you know, expensive paperbacks on eBay. Now, you know, anybody can, you know, dial up Amazon and order a copy of The Hunter or The Outfitter, whichever one.
Are they doing it in paperback?
They're in paperback, yeah. If you look on Amazon, you just do a search on Richard Stark and Parker, they'll come up. Nice cover treatments too.
Oh, his books, Westlight's books.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been a fan of his books for years, and the problem has always been that companies would decide to reprint the books. They'd all reprint the first 5 and then go broke. And this happened over and over. So you could find multiple copies of those first, say, 5, 6 novels anywhere. But the last 3, you couldn't find them anywhere. And it was like $400 at one point to get a copy of Deadly Edge or Slayground on eBay. And worth every penny, I might add. But yeah, it's great now that you can go out and pick them up for $10 a throw. Come on, race here. Come on, give us something juicy.
In your career as a writer-artist, what is your greatest regret?
My biggest regret?
Yes.
Wow. Am I supposed to say stuff like that out loud? friends when you answer these questions, so I gotta be careful. I gotta make sure everyone understands it's my failure, maybe not the people around.
Doesn't necessarily have to be about the work, maybe it's related to it.
Well, Tim Sale is a real asshole. No, I'm just joking. I'm just messing. Tim's one of my best friends, so.
Thank you, Mr. Choi. It's you recording the conversation.
No editing. You let it all play.
By the way, if you ever want to know about Jim Lee, that's Jim Lee's assistant over there. He'd be happy to answer every question you have after this.
You name it, he'll tell you. Yeah, I was probably the Superman book with Tim, just because I don't think I was a good enough writer. I just don't think I'm a good enough writer. And to be quite honest, I have a hard time, and I have a hard time working with other artists. I'm a terrible artist to work with, in that, well, generally speaking, I will do a good job for you, and people will notice the book, and it will sell well, perhaps, but I always change things in the script. I never take the script and just execute it. If I think a scene isn't right, I'll change it. If I think a page doesn't work, I'll drop it and expand another one, and that's how I work. And it's how I work with my own material. I don't write a script and sit down and execute it. It's an ongoing back and forth. And I don't write a final script until I'm deciding what people are going to say on the page. So it was very difficult for me to sit down and write a full script for another guy, not knowing how he would want to visualize or respond to the work. And I don't think I did as well as I could have for Tim. So that's probably it.
Well, if I could just interject for a second, it's, a creator like Darwyn, I mean, obviously, when you write something, you visualize it in your head. So when you see another artist interpret it, it's going to be different from how you would do it. And the same thing when you get a script from someone, it's the same thing. You're going to think of how you would do it.
It's tricky stuff. I'm going to be working with a creator I admire quite a bit next year. And I realized that off the top I had to come clean and say, feel free to change anything. If there's a scene that doesn't work, by all means, if you think something's running long, cut it, expand where you think we need it. Or I'm a hypocrite, because that's what I do to the other writers. So I have to make sure that I'm giving the same latitude to the people I work with, which is a whole other can of worms. So, opening up. So it's kind of tough for me to function just as a writer, and I try to do better at it. So yeah, I don't know if I ever regret it, it's that. And Tim really is an asshole.